base that be able to, you know, bring a little bit more calm and soothing, you know, to that situation. Of course, there's not a whole lot you can say to somebody just, you know, lost a loved one or something like that. But I really believe that the spirit that's within him would definitely, you know, help in that situation like that.
That would be his responsibility as a chaplain, you see, which is to say that even though you've got the gun and all those things, you've also been trained to deal with other kinds of issues.
That's correct.
And this is where your gospel, in a real sense, comes into play. Is that what we're saying?
Right. And he hit the nail right on the head, because as a chaplain, when you're on your way to make a death notification, and you know when you knock on that door and you get ready to break that bad news, you're going to change that family's life forever. So mostly it is a ministry of presence, being there. It's almost like once you break that bad news, it's like you shatter that life, and it's just a matter of trying to be there to put the pieces back together. But you don't do it by quoting scriptures and things of that nature, because a lot of times they're in shock. They're not hearing that anyway. So it's a ministry of presence, and that's one of the challenges of understanding the chaplaincy work, even though we use other pastors and clergy, but it's not there to go quote scriptures and try to bring people back through that, because a lot of people already that we go to are already in the faith of something, of some belief, and they already know, but just that presence there offers us peace to them, or just a kind word, I'm so sorry for your loss.
And that's very, very important in terms of how people are able to face the situation that they find themselves in. It might be disagreeable, but it's better to have somebody there who can make those kinds of expressions rather than not to have anybody.
That's correct. Being very compassionate and sensitive, you know, to their needs is very, very important. Very important.
Pastor, what do you think about our young people today? Do you think that somehow they ought to be more involved with ministry or religion or whatever? Do you think that they're...
I think that's very important. And I think one of the things that's missing in our society today is that a lot of our younger people are not being trained up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. You know, a lot of times the parents, that was a generation, and I can't pinpoint exactly when, but there was a generation that said, you know, I'm not going to make my child go to church. I'm not going to do what my parent did, you know, without really applying any real true thought process to what they're saying, because, you know, that same parent required you to go to school, you know, grade school and all through school and stuff like that. So you don't grow up and say, I'm not going to make my children go to school. So why would you say, I'm not going to have make my children go to church? And what's happening is there's a lot of there's a break in the moral fiber, because a lot of people are not being trained up, they're not being taught, they're not having a God consciousness, and you know, you taught a lot of moral stuff within the church setting. You know, you go to school, you get an education. In the church setting, you get a lot of moral stuff that builds and builds and develop your character and stuff. And if you're not, and it's not solely done there, but it should be something that helps enhance what you should be getting at home anyway. But if that element is missing, then you're bringing up a child that has no moral restraint, and then it's not hard for that same individual to have a friend and kill that friend.
Kill a friend without thinking about it.
Absolutely, you know, and that's a lot that's missing, you know. And another thing I would definitely, you know, want Officer Duke to tap into also is the need for more and more African American males to come into it, and not only just males but females as well, but more so African American males to come into the police.
And of course, what we'll do when we come back during the this final segment, Pastor Duke, is to have you to talk about. I think it was said earlier, to recruit. Talk about what can be done, and what you're trying to do, and what your department is trying to do in reference to that. I think that would be appreciated. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.
Do need to recruit. It would be good to have more diversity within our department, but just my understanding of just a lot local, it's not applying. A lot of the recruits that come in now from out of state, different day, but we need more African American.
You want to talk to North Nashville?
Yeah.
Okay, so just say that it would be better if folks who are being a chaplain in that area happen to live within that area, they can have a better recognition and a better empathy in reference to it. Is that what?
Yeah, what I'm saying is it wouldn't hurt sometime in the community when you're dealing with the community, have the face of the community, a little more of the face of the community.
And you need some more black folks.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what we ought to say. I kind of suspected you. But I think
another thing you touch on too is how people they need to hear coming from a police officer how people should respond when they're stopped.
Okay.
That's good.
Not to be argumentative.
Yeah, survival techniques.
Right.
Even if you feel like you're in the right, it's just a matter of respect and politeness.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. 30. And so we want to start with you, Pastor Duke.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Pastor KWalker and Chaplain JDuke. And Chaplain Duke, let's see if we can end this final segment by having you to talk about some efforts on the part of the Metropolitan Police Department in terms of recruitment and in terms of diversity, in terms of all of those things that you believe to be necessary in order to help you improve what you're doing and help improve the city in entirety.
Okay. Well, in the community, listening at some of the people within the church talking, they would like to see more black officers in the community going through the police academy, and I think it would be very helpful if pastors would mention to their young adults that's growing up that may want to be a police officer as a profession, which it is a good profession. I've been doing it pretty much over half my life now, and I can't think of nothing more rewarding from being a police officer. But I believe the police department, if churches would open up and let recruitment go in and talk to their young people to give some insights on the police department. Of course, now some of the criteria you have to have either some college, at least 60 credited hours, college degree, military background, have held a job for a certain length of time. So the police department, they do recruit. They about twice a year, they've run classes through. And I know a lot of the community people, even within the church, have said they would love to see more blacks at the graduations.
Very good. And so what you're saying to ministers this morning in a real sense is that if there's somebody in your congregation, and I think ministers can generally determine the individuals that they would probably like to become in, would like to send to you. But that all they would have to do is to sort of talk to those individuals and to allow them to get in touch with individuals like you, and then they can perhaps start off in terms of finding out the qualifications and things that are necessary, so that when we talk about policing, we're not always talking about only African Americans doing the policing. And so, do you think that that's an important thing that we can
I think so. I think you find ways to attract the African American male to the police department. And one of the ways I think is to get rid of the image that all police officers are bad, and in reality they're not. I interact with a lot of police officers where I work at Room in the Inn because they're constantly bringing people in that are homeless and intoxicated. They bring them in down there, and I interact with many Metropolitan Nashville Police Department officers, and I mean I found a lot of them very easy to get along with. I mean, I found some with some attitudes too, but at the same time, you know, we got to break this bad guy stigma and stuff like that, and realize police officers, they're people too. They got families and stuff, and then when they're out there doing their job, you know, they got to be cautious in terms of when they approach somebody and not knowing what to expect when they're making that approach and stuff like that. So, and it's important. I think Officer Duke was saying something also about some of the criteria. You know, if that criteria could be tweaked a little bit, you know, in terms of the 60 college hours and credits and hours like that, and incorporate that particular aspect into the academy training, I think it maybe attract more people, because sometimes I think a lot of people launch off in a career in a pursuit of a degree. They may not pull short at that point and then come into the academy and they may continue on the course they're on. But I think if you could incorporate that into the training aspect,
prior knowledge and prior training that they might have.
Take desire. You know, somebody, because I was looking at a picture of Officer Duke when he was 14 years old, and he had a desire. He was delivering papers, but he had a desire to be a police officer, and he pursued it. You know, I don't know if the criteria was probably different.
Back when I came on, you just needed a high school diploma.
Yeah.
When I came on.
Well, what do you find now, Chaplain Duke, in reference to recruitment? Do you find that there are a large pool of African American males that can, well, not only African American males, but I think that we have to admit that this is a real situation in reference to what we're talking about here. Do you find that there's a large number of African American males who would like to do what you're doing, or what?
I don't have any statistics now on that. Some years back, I did work in background and recruitment, and they used to get a good pool of them, but that's been back in the early 90s.
And so for the most part, there are not that many efforts to try to increase the number of African Americans in the police academy?
I don't know for sure how recruitment do, but I know they do job fairs and they go different places. They send background and recruitment officers different places, schools, colleges, trying to recruit. And then sometimes it's by word of mouth. You know, sometimes there have been some that have been hired that have even talked to me, and I've told them to pursue it, that it is a good career. And it's sort of like what Pastor Walker was saying, sometimes it's that stigma that holds some back, because when an incident happens, it get blown sometimes, you know, within the media, some things, because you got to have some good and bad in everything. But everybody's not bad.
The overwhelming of officers, police officers, individuals that are involved in that are really involved because they do have that kind of compassion.
They care and want to help.
Desire to help and whatever. And even though there might be a few bad apples here and there, more than likely they were good apples when they started off. And people can become, you know, sort of cynical in reference to what they do. But for the most part, you think that the individuals that you counsel with and that you work with are all individuals that have the welfare of all peoples in reference to what they do. Would that be a good statement?
I would say so. And two, within the police department, there are some mechanisms that's been put in place to try to help identify, you know, if someone is going wrong and everything.
And so they are. The police department is aware of all of the controversy in reference to what they do, and so you believe that the Metropolitan Police Department is working hard and trying to deal with some of those issues.
Right, because some of the things that has happened in other cities and everything, well, we say, well, it could happen to Nashville, but there are some things that have been put in place to try to safeguard, even bringing clergy and getting them involved, and keeping them in the know of some of the things that's happening to try to keep, you know, things, you know, on a calm here in Nashville.
And so the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department is a large department.
It is a large department.
It's a very large department. And there are many opportunities that individuals, and probably in many instances, a lot of folks probably never thought about. Well, would you advise individuals who have perhaps been involved in the military, for example, have been in service and good way out, you know, not kicked out of service, but, you know, to become involved? That would be something.
A lot of the recruitment pool has come from people with prior military experience. And so they do hire a lot that's just, you know, coming out from the military.
And so, Pastor, you believe that the more knowledge that we have in reference to what is going on in the police department,